listen up, y'all. It's the Queen of Automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology is only good when it works. Today we're going to get geeky and techie with Nick Passarelli. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name. I think it's good. He's a corporate compliance officer with an awesome personality. I can't wait for you to meet him. He has over 20 years experience managing full-scale compliance program for some of the largest organizations in the kind of financial world, but I'll let him tell you more about that later. And so I'm going to bring him on. Welcome, Nick. Say hi to everybody.
How
and
are
why don't
you?
you tell everybody where you're tuning in from?
Yeah, I'm tuning in from New Jersey, where Megan and I were just talking. We just came from a lunch with a number of colleagues of ours, and it was great to meet people in person after knowing them online for so long.
Like, that's the best. Like, when you, and it's so funny. I have to ask this question. I didn't ask you this in the green room, but were there any like aha moments, like, I thought you'd be taller, or like any of those funny moments, like where that is not what your voice is supposed to sound like, like, did you have any of those moments?
So it was the first time I've seen Darren without a hat. Because
he's squinty, isn't he?
Yeah,
no.
What?
I'm kidding. Sorry, Darren.
Darren without a hat. And it was nice because if you see Darren in his profile, yeah.
No
Darren,
hat, like at all?
No hat. So I am used to seeing him with a hat in all of his posts and his profile, and not seeing him in a hat was a change. But everyone else, it was like, okay, as expected, but it was very nice. We had an over 2-hour lunch. It was great.
That's so fun. That is so fun. So one of the things I also kind of ask everybody to talk about with everybody is that I'm a huge believer, and you probably know this from going back and forth with this group that we're in. I'm a huge believer in there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's all life, right? Like, it's all life. And that we should be focusing on building a lifestyle and not necessarily a career, right? So I would love to get your take on that, one. And two, anything that's happened in like the last 6 to 12 months, anything, life, business, whatever, how has it changed the way that you look at that kind of like work-life, quote unquote, balance?
Yep. So I'll answer the first question. I completely agree with you, right? We focus on something that is not realistic. I'm going to manage my work and still have a life and so on and so forth, right? It's about, having a life and figuring out the things that you need to do around that. So working, bringing in income. But I think for me, and to answer the second part of the question is, I was part of a restructure at my now former company back in January. It has given me such fresh perspective on everything, because when you're in the weeds and doing what you do, and look, we worked from home the last 4 years because after COVID, we all went remote and we never went back into the office. So it was a real eye-opening experience for me, all of a sudden going from, okay, this is my job and this is what I do and this is what I do every day, to it not being there, right? And you say to yourself, wow, like, how am I going to deal with this? Because for a lot of people, Megan, as you know, it is a significant blow to their identity. It's like, absolutely. I identify with the
crushed.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's given me the opportunity to reconnect with a number of old friends and colleagues and put myself out there, join the brand build community, which is fantastic, meeting all of those, really excellent people and how supportive they are, yourself included, obviously. And it's just been such a great experience to kind of just figure out what's next. And there are a lot of options on the table, but I'm not in any rush, because what you want to do right. And you want to make sure that you can do it for a while.
Totally agree. I went through the same thing. I'm an ex-corporate girl. I decided to start my own thing. And I went through 2 corporate restructures and made it through both of them. And by the time I hit number 3, I actually technically made it through, but it was so awful and it was so draining. And once they kind of change over the C-suite, and then they do it again, and then they do it again, and they were filling it with more people that were just, it was just a nasty environment. Like, nobody liked being there. Nobody enjoyed going to work. And I was like, all right, I'm done with this. And I kind of just gave up. I really did. I gave up, kind of and just stopped performing, and eventually they replaced me, right? Like eventually my job was eliminated, and to kind of give you an idea of what I was doing, my job was replaced with 3 people.
That's crazy.
That's how many people, and they actually are, those 3 people are still there. And I'm just like, you replaced one person with 3 people. That tells you what I was doing for this company.
That's
I was
right.
killing myself for people who could care less if I was there or not. And
Right.
done with that,
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I'm going to be posting about this tomorrow. And, I 3 months ago hadn't really thought of anything on LinkedIn regarding personal brand. Now, getting a message out there, being authentic, being who you are. But so many people who are on LinkedIn use it for looking for a job, networking, but like really they're posting things in support of their employer and not for themselves. And that's been the biggest change for me over the last 3 months on LinkedIn, is that I want to do things that are me, that are genuine, that are authentic, that I want to talk about, that I know people are interested in. And look, I was always good about celebrating the wins of my company, but the reality is this, you're gone and life moves on. So
unfortunately,
yeah,
everyone is replaceable.
yes,
Everyone, no matter
absolutely.
what you do. And it's like, you either have to, it's sink or swim, baby. Like, you have to build that personal brand and
Totally.
be, it's kind of ridiculous. One of the other women in the group was just talking about that the other day, and there's just so much of it that out there right now, and who knows? Who knows what the world's going to look like in 5 years, but for now, personal branding is like, you have to work on it. You have to do it. You have to be there.
I think we're going to see, and we're seeing that already, right? More of the Gen Z and younger generations. Like, I have kids that are teenagers. I think you do too, right?
Yeah.
We're going to see, yeah, we're going to, you and I are going to see more of a shift of people that are looking for passive income and doing things where they're more reliant upon themselves and not on someone else. And you even see it now. A lot of Gen Zs and millennials won't stay at a job very long if they feel that the company doesn't support them and they don't support their goals and they don't support their growth and so on and so forth. People move on. And I know a lot of the old school people kind of brand them as, oh, they're job hoppers and so on and so forth. Listen, if you're getting a 2% raise every year and you go somewhere else and they give you 20%, well, guess what? That's a win for you, right?
Exactly.
And
exactly. Yeah.
They are maximizing their growth. They're monetizing on the opportunity. And I completely understand why they do it. Because as you said, Megan, the days of our parents working for the same company their entire career is long gone.
Corporations need to catch up.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a reason that so many of these big tech companies have been laying off hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people. They are dying. And it's not, I shouldn't say they're dying. I mean, they're still going to be there, but they are dying in the sense that they're not able to keep people because they're not offering them what they want. And
Right.
Especially the younger generation.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard. All right, let's jump into compliance and technology, because this is what we want to talk about, right?
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
when you, I'm just so curious. Okay, first of all, tell people what compliance is, because I'm sure there are people going, what the heck is a corporate compliance officer? Like, what do they do? Let's talk about that first, and then we can get into the rest of it.
Yep. I'm going to take you a little bit into my background and then I will, go into it. So in a former life, I started in corporate human resources, if you can believe that, right? There is no mention of this at all on LinkedIn.
See that.
And that's by design. So, I don't know, like some people like posting on their LinkedIn. I don't know if you've seen this, Megan, but they'll post the name of the company like X Meta or X Google. I don't know about you. I don't like talking about my exes. So it's just, you just kind of move on, right? But that being said, 6 years of corporate HR, 7 years of corporate HR actually, saw a lot of things. I was involved in facilitating multiple layoffs at 2 big companies. And once you do that, man, oh God, it's just like, really, do I want to spend my entire career doing this? So what ended up happening in 2003 was I joined Kellogg Group, which at the time was a small but growing Wall Street firm, a family-run operation. They were great, but they had needs in compliance. And like you, I said, what the heck is compliance and what what is this about? And basically in a financial services environment, it's making sure that you follow the rules and regulations that are set forth. So for example, we had specialists who trade stock, who basically manage the different listed companies on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and on the American Stock Exchange. So we had compliance obligations for that. We had prop trading desks, so we had compliance obligations for that. And then we had an institutional sales desk where I ultimately became their chief compliance officer. We had compliance obligations for that. So really, it's making sure that companies follow the rules and regulations that are set forth by their respective regulators. And then your job as a compliance officer is to make sure that you are doing things that satisfy these requirements, but you also have to do it in a way, Megan, that is scalable, that's practical, and that's simple, right?
And sustainable, right?
Yeah, sustainable, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. So it's something that, I jumped into at the end of 2004, beginning of 2005 on a full-time basis. Spent my first 2 years just getting my ass kicked because it was just me and me alone. But baptism by fire, the only, the way you learn is through experience, right? And I looked around saying, well, this is the only person that's doing it. So if I don't do it right, then there's going to be problems. Got really good at it. Went to my next company, DealerWeb, for 9 years, 2018. We learned a lot about fixed income trading. They had an alternative trading system, so people could trade electronically in fixed income, like different mortgage-backed securities, so on and so forth, treasuries. And then in mid-2018, I get a call from a recruiter saying, hey, we love your background. Would you be interested in working for a company that's starting a crypto exchange? So I'm like, okay, crypto. It's still the Wild West. We go into this. Yeah, exactly. And I get to the interview, and it's a 24-year-old guy who's the co-founder. He's from France. Very smart. I know. So here I am in my mid-40s. I'm interviewing with the co-founder.
I'm old enough to be your dad.
100%. And I look at my wife like, you know what? They made me an offer. This has very much of a midlife crisis on it. What do you think? And she said to me, look, I know you want to do crypto. I know you want to chase the dream. You do it. I'll be the adult and I'll continue to work for the big bank. So we did that. It was a year and a half, great experience. Unfortunately, the exchange didn't have as much success as we had hoped. They ended up selling to a company. I left at the end of 2019. Then I began interviewing with my now former company, Brex, and was there for almost 4 years. But I was there in February when we were in office in 2020. Then we went remote. I started when we were about 200 employees. We got to 1,300 employees. And then, as I mentioned, so when you see 650% growth while you're there, and I was also the longest tenured person in legal and compliance, being there almost 4 years at the time that I left. So you see a lot of iterations and a lot of changes. And I think the big thing with crypto and fintech that you see, Megan, is you got to be adaptable, right? You have to just be able to roll with the punches and say, all right, we're going to do this. This is how we're going to do it. And, and a lot of legal and compliance people by nature in the big shops are very rigid. They're very risk averse, but that's their job, right? So you have to approach in a fast moving environment. You've got to take measured risk, and you have to approach it as this is a black and white regulatory framework, but we live in the gray. So we've got to make this work.
So I'm curious, because you said a lot, so there's a lot to unpack there, right?
Yeah,
because
totally.
The reason I was so excited to talk to you, I'm just going to say this first, because compliance and technology are so closely knitted, because the same thing that happens with behind the scenes when you're worried about operations, we'll just take a basic, email. There are so many laws that people don't understand, like CAN spam laws and Federal Trade Commission. There's so many laws around emails and how you have to send them. And now with this new Google Yahoo thing where the DMARC and all, we won't get super geeky into that, but how were you using automated technology and systems to help with some of that? Because there's so many regulations and so many rules and so many, you had to have some really awesome beefy systems back there helping you, because there's no way for you, even a Google bot that's doing the research so that every time a new regulation comes in, it pings and it sends it to you and you have to go, oh crap, let me pivot over here and deal with this dumpster fire. Because that's the kind of stuff that happens in compliance that I remember from my corporate, time. That it would happen all the time. There was always some sort of dumpster fire regulation, and I can't even imagine, with financial like trading. Yours was, I'm dealing with like digital technology and like that kind of stuff, and so we get changes all the time from Google and algorithms and all the other stuff, but nowhere near to the magnitude that you guys were getting on.
Yep. So we work very closely with our cybersecurity teams, and at all the different companies that I work with, right? And I'll use my last company as a perfect example. When you have standards in place that you have to ask yourself, should we do two-factor authentication, right? This is something, Megan, that typically is done by trial and error. And I think there's a natural friction between the product teams that want the customer experience to be seamless and the legal compliance security teams that are like, wait a second, we have to do this to protect our customer. You've got to find that happy medium, right? So if you don't have 2FA, what ends up happening? Someone hacks into your system, or someone hacks into the account. There's an account takeover. They start sending money everywhere. Customer gives a WTF, and then it's like, well, what did you do to protect me, right? So I think,
yeah,
right. So that's one example. I would say in terms of automation, where we did a really good job and what we continue to hone on. If you look at how you onboard a new customer through the know your customer process, right? Yep, that is where it hits. Because if you're onboarding thousands of accounts, you can't have someone looking at paper and saying, this looks good, this looks good. You have to set standards where if a document comes in, the system that you're using to scan the ID, is it valid? Yes. Does it pass? Yes. On to the next task. You are the beneficial owner controlling officer. This is the documentation you provided. This is the address you provided. Can we verify this address? Yes. Move on to the next thing. So there was a system in place where there would be a number of checks, automated throughout the way. And what ended up happening was that with our higher risk accounts, they would move to our enhanced due diligence team. Now, where automation would come in there, back in the day, people would sit there and have to do all the research on the account, and it would take 2 to 3 hours to do it. To make a decision that took 10 minutes. Now, all of a sudden, you use AI, you can aggregate all the information that you need, can do it in a matter of 2 minutes. And now the capacity to review more accounts goes up by 1,000% because you're not sitting there and taking the time manually to get the information that you're digging through the internet for, where AI just delivers it to you.
You are speaking my language. Data aggregation. Woo! I'm so excited. And FYI, for all of you people listening out there, what he's talking about is a CRM. Remember, we were talking a few days ago with Nolan about customer relationship management. And Nolan he's a small company, right? Like he is starting his own small thing. He's, it's brand new. The company that Nick is talking about is 1,300 people. Okay. Customer relationship management is essential no matter what size you're at. And once you get to that size, if you are not automating the process to collect data, research data, and manage the relationship between your customers and like onboarding and all the way through the entire process, you are missing out. Like you are doing your customers a disservice, and they will leave you because they will be disappointed. Absolutely. Because you will not be able to keep up with the amount of information that you need to manage, with the amount of, data error management is huge. Like when you get to be that size and you have that many customers flowing through, if you're not managing the errors in the data and you don't have some sort of ping or some sort of system set up that says, oh, like their email didn't come through, or they're, you are just, you're going to sink. You're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is very cool. Thank you for sharing that with me, and us, I should say us. Hi, us. So what's next for you? What's next on your plate? Tell people where they can find you. Tell people how they can stalk you on LinkedIn. Show people all about you.
Great question. So considering a number of different options, been exploring some advisory roles on my own. which has been good. I've had a lot of good feedback. I've been interviewing with a few different companies, but I think the challenge now, Megan, is you get to a certain level in your career, the jobs aren't as available, especially when you hit a certain income level. So that becomes a little bit of a harsh reality. But I will say that the support from my friends, my family, my community has been terrific. So I am really just taking my time trying to be deliberate in finding, what is best for me. But I have been spending so much time working, and just like helping others, helping founders who, have questions about compliance. And I'm a big believer, and again, shameless plug, I'm going to post about this tomorrow, is I'm a big believer in giving, giving, giving with no expectation of reciprocation, just because I think it is just the right thing to do. People need help, and some people are in really tough spots. And if you can help them, and, like it just comes around, right? So for me, like, I am in a spot where I can take my time. And I think, it's going to be good wherever I land next. But in the meantime, I'm just enjoying what I'm doing now and helping people, and just really trying to figure out what's next. And this has been a nice break.
All right. So tell people where they can find you.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Profile Nick Passarelli. Last name is spelled Passarelli. I only post weekly. I do not post every day, but if you like my content,
He's not quite as obsessed as the rest of us crazy people.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I was talking, so it's funny. I was talking to some people about it. They're like, "Dude, you need to post every day." Like, I get that, right? The more you post, the more you get engagement. And I'm like, look, I get it, but for me and where I am in my life right now with my family obligations, once a week just great for me.
You only have to post. So that is total myth. We're going to we'll unpack that quick, and then I'll just soapbox about that for a little smidge. You only have to post for what remember, go back to, you're building a lifestyle. You're not building a career. You're building a lifestyle. If you don't want to post every day, don't post every day. If you want to post once a week, post once a week, but make sure it's consistent. It's all about consistency. I only post Monday through Thursday. I do not work weekends.
Good.
I only work 4 10-hour days. I don't do it. My goal for this year is to work eight months out of the year and take the rest of the year off. I am building a lifestyle. I don't want to work for the rest of my life. I don't want to just continuously put in hour after hour. It's just not going to happen. That's just not where I want to be. And I think you're probably the same way. We're in the same age range, and I'm just not. It is no longer my goal. Like, I can't wait to see what you pick next, because I'm going to make this hypothesis right now during the show. My hypothesis is that you are not going to go back to a large corporation, that you're going to do the consulting gig, and you're going to kick ass at it, and it's going to explode, because everybody's going to want to talk to you. Because you know what? I'm sorry, little 22-year-olds, but you do not have enough life experience to be my coach. Sorry. Like, you just don't. Like, it's great. I'm glad that you know how to sell, and I'm glad that you know how to make money. You guys can do that for a while. Come talk to me in 10 or 15 years when you've lived a little, right? Like, it's just the way it is. And that's not to say that these young guys and girls and people are not doing well. Like, they're amazing to watch and to follow, but I don't want them as my coach. I would totally take compliance lessons from, because you've done it, right? Like, you've got the experience. And I'm super excited that we talked to you today, because this is a very awesome conversation. So,
and I very much appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. And listen, we'll see where you land. You may be right in terms of your predictions. So we will just, like I said, take it day by day. But I think this experience has provided me such great perspective, and getting to meet such amazing people in the community, such as yourself, who are trying to do things to make the world a better place, right? And automation, utilizing technology, embracing AI. These are all the things that we should be running towards, not running from. And I think that, we need more awareness for people like you. And I'm thrilled to have been a part of this.
It was such a good conversation. All right, everybody. we're going to jump off and we'll see you next time. Nick, I will see you in Brandville. We'll do a little shameless plug for Darren and Nat. If anyone out there listening is a owner, co-founder, like small business looking to really grow on LinkedIn and really grow their personal brand, you should come check out Brandville. It's very, very cool. It's such a great community of not only like executives, business owners. I mean, there's such a wide variety of people in this group, but we're all entrepreneurs and we're all interested in growth, which is really, really cool. So check it out. I will drop the link and all that stuff in the show notes for you guys to come check it out if you're interested. It's totally worth it if you want to talk to more people like Nick and myself and interact with. There's meme wars. I heard something about free swag at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Like, who doesn't want free swag?
Yep.
It's going to be great. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Bye, everybody.